Please welcome David Silverman.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Jim. Wow, what a great crowd. I'm really happy to be here tonight. Thank you all for coming. I want to say thank you to Kelly for riling up this crowd. I want to say thank you to Jen for becoming our new state director. And I want to say thank you to Chrissy Helton for giving me Jim, who is going to be working with us at the National Field Office as the National Field Coordinator. What? Oh, yeah. He's got some great ideas, and I'm really looking forward to working with him, and I'm really glad to be here today. How are you all atheists doing? Good. So the title of this talk is called What Now? Again, my name is David Silverman. I'm the president of American Atheists, and I am also an atheist. And by the way, so are you. And I hope you all follow Kelly's advice and come out as atheists. This is not to talk about why you should all call yourself atheists, but you should all call yourself atheists. So we had a pretty good run. We had a president who supported the separation of church and state. We had a president who said that non-believers were included, and he put us in his speeches a couple times, and he did a few things, and then Mr. Trump won. And so the title of this speech is What Now? Because when Trump won, a lot of things changed. My job changed, American Atheists changed, and atheism on the national front changed. And we have to understand that these changes are going to affect all of us. Since President Trump came into power, our death threats have gone up, our harassment has gone up, we've seen a lot more brazen bigotry from all parts of the world, all parts of the country rather, not so much the world, and we are facing a different fight. And so this is going to be this speech is a little bit about what we're supposed to do and how we're going to be able to navigate the next few years, or the next few weeks as it's going on. So what now? Atheist activism in the Trump era. Talk a few things about today. First of all, the current issues. I'm going to talk about vouchers, I'm going to talk about the Johnson Amendment, and I'm going to talk about Mr. Gorsuch. These are the things that are just a few of the things that are that touch on the separation of church and state. Then I'll talk a little bit about the future issues, health insurance, the RFRA, the legal discrimination, which that's what it is, and of course what to do now. Now, current issues are, well, they're just too numerous to mention. When it comes to the separation of religion and government, we've got a very dangerous person in the presidential office. And I have said many times that there are good atheists and there are bad atheists. We have to own the fact that there are good atheists and there are bad atheists. And in my personal opinion, we have to own the fact that there's a bad atheist in Washington, D.C. right now. There's a bad atheist in the White House. I think that's a true statement. Why do I think that's a true statement? Because he said he was so religious, but he couldn't name a single Bible verse. How many people out there are religious and can't name John 3:16? They can't name Genesis 1. Right. I believe this man is an atheist, and that's bad. Because he's the worst kind of atheist. He's the atheist who is going to use religion for his own personal gain because he knows there's no hell. He's not afraid of lying. He's not afraid of all that stuff, like we aren't, but he has no morality behind him. People have asked me many times, what would you do? Don't atheists have no morals, but how can you have morals and be an atheist? And my standard answer to that is, well, if I had no morals, I'd be a preacher. Well, we have a president who's right in that category. And he is doing what he can to use religion to his personal gain. And you can see it happening. He is corrupt. And he is using religion. He is throwing so many favors at religion. Why? So that religious people will be on his side. Religious people follow blindly, or they tend to follow blindly. And so when you're throwing so many goodies at religion, they'll back you. At least that's his strategy. And you can all think of some other dictators in the past who have used similar strategies. And it works. And it is working. And so we have an issue. We have a big issue. I want to talk a little bit about how some of those issues are fixating on us. And the first one is this wonderful lady right here, Miss Betsy DeVos. Yeah. So she's not before Congress. She's already been through. But she uses competition as an excuse to funnel millions of education dollars to religion. Now, folks, they use the term vouchers as this ruse to pretend they're adding competition to the fray. But what they're actually doing is siphoning off money from the public school system, money that is already hurting the public school system. Our public schools in this country already suck. They already suck. And they're going to take more money out of that, and they're going to funnel that to religious schools. And they're using competition as a way to get through the obvious crippling that they're doing to the public school system. And that federal money is going to be used for schools that discriminate. Now, Ms. DeVos was in the news today. She was questioned about, will these schools be able to discriminate against LGBT youth? And she said over and over and over again, they will have to follow federal law. Federal law does not provide for anti-discrimination against LGBT youth. She won't say that because she knows she's a bigot. Everybody knows what they're doing here. She knows she's a bigot. She knows her plan is bigoted. She knows she's taking federal money away. And what does that mean? Well, that means, obviously, the LGBT kids, as well as the atheist kids, as well as all the other kids that are not accepted into these private schools, will be stuck in the public school system where the money has been gutted due to these vouchers. It is obviously a second class being made right in front of us, a lower class being made right in front of us. And that lower class, ladies and gentlemen, is non-Christian students. And it's being done by the government so that the Christian right will support President Trump. That's what we're dealing with. So she's using this competition lie as an excuse to funnel millions and millions of dollars from the public school system into private school system. Of course, what does that private school system do? What is the purpose of a private parochial school? To indoctrinate children. So that public money, which used to be used to educate kids, we just saw that wonderful speech about science, that money that used to be used to educate kids is now going to be used to indoctrinate children into believing that science is bad, as well as everything that's not Christian. This is in the works right now. She wants to use the public school system to advance God's kingdom. Now, folks, I get up here and I use very hard language and I use very straight language. I am not being hyperbolic here. This is actually the plan. This is actually what is happening, and it's happening on a national level. And we need to stop it as much as we can on a local level, as well as a national level. Let's talk a little bit about the Johnson Amendment. Jim mentioned the Johnson Amendment earlier, and the Johnson Amendment is a big deal. Now, on its face, and the reason that it's a big deal is because it's so misleading. The Johnson Amendment allows or prohibits politics from the pulpit. And what they'll say is, oh, you know what? Churches have free speech. They should be allowed to say and do whatever they want. And the dangerous thing is, on its face, that sounds reasonable. On its face, that sounds reasonable. But you need to take a little step into it to see what is happening. Basically, so here's the scoop about nonprofit organizations. There's two classes of nonprofit organizations. There's 501c3 religious and 501c3 everything else. American Atheists is a 501c3 educational organization. We're not religious. Now, if you make your donations to American Atheists, which I hope you do, you can deduct that from your tax returns. Every year, American Atheists files our forms. We have to file our forms. We have to be subject to audit every year. We tell the government how much money we make, how much money we spend, and what we spend it on every year. We don't have to pay taxes, but we have to declare our income, and that income is public knowledge. That goes for every 501c3 non-religious organization. 501c3 religious organizations are also tax-deductible expenses, but they do not file their forms. They do not tell the government how much money they make. They do not tell the government what they spend their money on. They file no forms. They tell you nothing. If you make a $10,000 donation to American Atheists, we have to tell the government. And that's a bit of a problem because we cannot promise you anonymity if you make a donation that big. It becomes public information legally. If you make a $10 million donation to a local church, you are anonymous because they don't report anything. They don't report anything. They don't tell you anything. They don't tell you what they did with it. And that's why if you ever hear of a church, if you ever hear a church saying, oh, we spend thousands of dollars on this, that's great. They'll never give you a percentage of gross income. They'll never tell you we spend this much of our income on this. They'll never show you the numbers. American Atheists voluntarily gets our numbers audited every year, and we post them on the web so that you know how your money is being spent. I don't believe there's a single church in the country that does that, and if there is, it's very, very small. Okay. Let's look at, I'm not even going to talk about the slide. Citizens United created super PACs. Corporations became people. And all of a sudden, corporations can jump millions and millions of dollars into political campaigns. Guess what you can't do with a super PAC? You can't be anonymous, and you can't take a tax deduction. Donations to super PACs are not tax deductible. So if you want to make a $10 million donation to the President Trump campaign, super PAC, that $10 million has gone from your account. The government knows that you did it. Let's say they remove the Johnson Amendment. What happens then? Then churches are anonymous, unregulated, untaxed, super PACs. You want to donate $10 million to the President Trump campaign? Find a church. Give them $10 million. Take a $10 million tax deduction, completely anonymous to the government. And then the church can take that $10 million and spend $5 million on the President Trump campaign and pocket the rest. And you'll never know because they don't file their forms. You'll never see it. They'll tell you they spent it all, but you'll never see the proof. You'll never see the numbers. That pastor can have a $5 million bonus in his check that year, and nobody will ever know because they don't file their forms. So if you're going to make a $10 million donation, are you going to make it to a super PAC or are you going to make it to a church? Of course you're going to make it to a church. You get the tax deduction. That's millions of dollars in your pocket. Super PACs are going to go away. Churches become the new super PACs. This is not hyperbolic. This is basic economics. People will go where it's most likely to do their benefit. They're going to donate $10 million to a church, take the $10 million tax deduction, and the money goes wherever the church decides with no oversight, no government interference, no government anything. The churches become the new super PACs, which means what? Which means the politicians now take most of their money from churches. That means they are beholden to churches. All of them, the left and the right, will be beholden to the churches. Those churches hate the separation of church and state. You can see how this benefits the churches. You can see why the religious right likes this so much. You can see why they want this. There's money there. Billions of dollars in money. And they're pushing it hard. Now, a lot of religious organizations don't like the repeal of the Johnson Amendment because what this will do is it will destroy religion. It will make churches a tool of the political machine, and they will not be able to escape. So a lot of religious organizations are on our side of this. But we have to worry about this, because if the Johnson Amendment actually is repealed, we're going to see a major change in the way our politics is done in this country. And it's going to become very, very church-centric, very, very synagogue-centric, very, very mosque-centric, very religion-centric, all to the detriment of science, separation of church and state, and religious equality. That is happening now. I just went on and on and on. And then there's Neil. Okay, so Neil Gorsuch is now on the Supreme Court. Just a little history about Neil Gorsuch. He is to the right of Scalia. Okay? That should be the only thing that's on this slide. That should be the only thing that's on this slide. I've got more words on this slide, but just think about that. Scalia was so far to the right, and we were so relieved, I'll just say it, we were so relieved when he died. We were so relieved when he died and Obama was president. We were going to get somebody liberal. The court was going to shift left, and it was going to be fine, and we were going to win the separation of church and state, and it was going to be awesome. And then, no. And Mitch McConnell stepped in, and he ruined it for us. He is a, person. I'm pretty sure he's human. Okay. So, just to give you an idea, Neil Gorsuch officially opposed American Atheists when we had our Utah Cross case, because it should be about the intent and not the reasonable observer. And so the Utah Cross case, we had the Utah Highway Patrolmen's Association was putting up big 12-foot tall steel crosses on the side of the road to commemorate dead cops. It didn't matter if the cop was Christian or not. It didn't matter if the cop wanted it there or not. And they would not allow any other shaped monuments because, according to them, the cross is not a Christian symbol. American Atheists took that case to the Supreme Court and won. But Neil Gorsuch opposed that, saying specifically, it shouldn't be about the intent. It should be about the intent of the person. They were not trying to push the separation of religion and government. They were not trying to push religion. It should be about the intent of the action. In another case, he said it shouldn't be about the intent of the action. It should be about the observer. Because in an Oklahoma case against the Ten Commandments, Neil Gorsuch again sided with religion, but reversed his own reasoning. Said it should be because it should be about a reasonable person seeing it, not the intent. Because in Oklahoma City, the intent was to push the separation of religion, was to push religion. In Utah, it was not, and so he switched. This is what we're dealing with. We're not talking about a person who's consistent. We're talking about a person who, well, he's not legally consistent, he's religiously consistent. Okay? And he supports, of course, Hobby Lobby and Little Sisters. And death with dignity is always wrong. So we have seen a serious shift. And when we look at Gorsuch, we see some pretty scary things coming out of it. And he's already started to vote, and he's already been shown to be a very, very conservative person, right up there with Clarence Thomas. These are just a few of the current issues that are going on. In the future, we have the greatest healthcare plan of 2017, which has already almost failed, but it's still there. It's going to be great. You're going to love it. It's going to be the best, the greatest healthcare plan. But the point of the new healthcare plan, the reason that they're having so much trouble, or one of the reasons that they're having so much trouble, is those religious exemptions. Those religious exemptions are in there. Now, we were talking a little bit about, Jim put all those issues up there, and we were talking about equality. And these religious exemptions are another word for inequality. They are an excuse for inequality. Religious exemptions are another excuse for inequality, and I want to make it very, very clear, religious exemptions should never exist. They should never exist. I don't care what the law is. The fact that you believe in a man in the sky who thinks you get to break that law is not a reason for you to break that law. It doesn't matter what the law is. If it's driving 65 in the 65 zone, that law has a purpose. The fact that you think your man in the sky wants you to break that law is not something that negates that purpose. And you can take it to an extreme. People wearing jewelry, people wearing beards, people wearing yarmulkes. If there's a law against it, there's a reason that there's a law against it. And you certainly believe in a man in the sky that thinks you should break that law, doesn't change that secular reasoning. Under no circumstances, should my God wants me to break the law be an excuse to legally break the law. But we are seeing that enshrined in federal law right now. And we're seeing it in the healthcare system. And it's not just about people, it's about corporations, because corporations are people. And what does that mean? Well, now we're talking about federal laws that are affecting other people. Now we're talking about corporations that are pushing the corporations' views on the employees. Corporations' views. The corporation's religious views. Which is, of course, the corporation stakeholders' religious views. The management's religious views. The humans' religious views are being pushed on other people. And when it comes to the healthcare system, it's being pushed on a lot of us. Many of us. All of us. And this is happening, again, right now. And it's moving forward, and very, very few people are screaming about it. Religious exemptions should never exist at all, and they certainly shouldn't exist in the health care plan. The Religious Freedom Restoration Act takes that to the next level. I started my activism back in 1995, 96, and one of the things I started when I first became state director back in the 1996, 97 timeframe was fighting the RFRA in New Jersey. And basically the RFRA says, if you really, really, really believe in a God that wants you to break the law, you get to. It's okay. It's okay. Because we wouldn't want to step on your closely held religious beliefs. Of course, your closely held religious beliefs are just what you believe. The thing about religion is that it's all individual. All of it. Every single believer, and I'll say this very clearly, every single believer of any religion, except those, of course, who are mentally ill, every single believer believes in a God that agrees with them. There is nobody out there that says, well, I'm pro-choice, but God is pro-life. Nobody says that. Nobody disagrees with their God. Nobody thinks, oh, God wanted the other team to win. I'm with the Patriots, but God likes the Steelers. No, doesn't happen. Everybody believes in a God that agrees with them, whether they be Christian, Jew, Muslim, Hindu. Every person believes in a God that agrees with them because every person invents their own God. Every person invents their own God, which means if you believe in a God that really wants you to break a law, that just means you want to break the law. That's what it means. It means you want to break the law. And you're inventing a God that agrees with you. Everybody who believes in a God does that. And that's not a reason to break the law. Because guess what? I want to break some laws too. But I don't have a God that agrees with me. I wonder if I don't know, if a pastafarian were to say, hey, you know what? My God wants me to drive 90 in a 50 zone, would get a religious exemption. I'll bet he wouldn't, because of course the RFRA is really about what is an acceptable religion, what is an acceptable God. Acceptability is, of course, a matter of majority rule. The faith-based initiatives continue with zero accountability. This guy came up here and said, we have to clean house, we have to drain the swamp. Yeah. The faith-based initiative is federal money that goes to religious organizations in order to perform social services. Social services are usually performed by government entities. This is money that's taken from those funds and allocated to religious organizations in that area that do those entities, that do that service. So if you have a social service organization, let's say a food kitchen, that's secular, that's an expert in serving food, or let's just try a computer training system for the poor or something like that. That's something that requires expertise. A church can come in, apply for that money, have less experience, less resources, and less know-how to do that job, and get federal money that the secular trained services won't get. And guess what else? There's no oversight. Again, no oversight. Can you see the parallels to the voucher system? Money is taken from secular and pushed to religious organizations. What do the religious organizations do? Indoctrinate people when they're the lowest point in life, and they're using federal funds to do it. Meanwhile, those who don't want to get indoctrinated are left with the other social services, which now have less money, creating a second class of citizenship. You see it. The pattern is obvious, and if you look for it, you can see the pattern. And it is pervasive, ladies and gentlemen. It is pervasive, and it is coming from the federal government so that the religious right will support President Trump, who is a corrupt asshole son of a bitch. The Muslim ban and the "we are next" argument. Somebody already asked me about, will I comment on the Muslim ban, and I certainly want to. Now, when we talk about the Muslim ban, we have to go back to what I was saying before, that all religion is individual. There's something that those people who throw people off the buildings, or throw gay people off the buildings in Afghanistan, and the people who walk through the streets of Paris shooting innocent civilians, and the people in Ghana, or Uganda rather, who are killing gay people, have something very important in common with every other believer in the world. They agree with their God. They think they're doing good by their God. Those people walking through the streets of Paris shooting innocent civilians. I remember Hillary Clinton was in a debate when this happened, and she was asked, well, what are we going to do about these people? And she said, oh, they're barbaric, they're bloodthirsty. No, ladies and gentlemen, they're not barbaric. They're not bloodthirsty. They think they're doing good. Those people who are shooting innocent civilians in the streets of Paris think they're doing good. They think they're sending those innocent people to Allah early. They deserve to be thanked for their gift that they're giving those people. They think they're doing good. And those Muslim people down the street from you, and those Christian people down the street from you, they'll say, oh, those Muslims, they're not the real Muslims, we're the real Muslims. Oh, those Christians in Uganda, they're not the real Christians, we're the real Christians. And of course, if you ask those Muslims and those Christians, they'll say the same thing about your neighbors. And they're all right, because it's all individual. And that's why the Muslim ban is a stupid idea. Because it's not about Islam. It's about the local cells of religion that people are belonging to. It's not about Islam. It's not about Christianity. It's about the fact that religion is individual. It's about the fact that every believer is a cafeteria believer. And so we have to understand that a Muslim ban won't work, because it's going to push away, it's not addressing the problem at all. It's just creating more of a problem by alienating those who are nice people instead of forbidding those who are bad. The bad people are going to get here anyway. And here's an important point, the "are we next" argument. I've heard this many times. We should not support the Muslim ban because after the Muslim ban will be an atheist ban. And that may be correct. But that is not why we need to fight the Muslim ban. We need to fight the Muslim ban because the Muslim ban is immoral. We need to fight the Muslim ban because in the end we are good people. And we want to be good people and we want to act good. So yes, it's important that we know that that potentially atheism is next, that potentially atheists are next. But that's not why we need to do this. That's not why we need to oppose any sort of ban that blankets any huge religion. The people who are believers in religions are victims of the religion. They need our help. They deserve our help. They're not evil. They're not bloodthirsty. Even the people walking down the streets of Paris, yes, I'm going to say this, and you're not going to like it, but they deserve compassion because they are victims of some serious brainwashing. In order for them to walk through the streets of Paris killing people, in order to fly those planes into buildings, these are victims of religion, and it is up to us to help them free from it. It's a good thing. This is what I write about in Fighting God. It's a good thing to attack religion. It's a good thing to yell and scream and raise the fist. It's a good thing to fight for the separation of religion and government and fight for religious plurality, because that is how you unindoctrinate people. So we can fight the Muslim ban because it's self-serving, but I prefer to fight the Muslim ban because it's the right thing to do, because it's good. We yell, we scream, I yell, I scream, Kelly yells really loudly. But we want to be good people. We want to do right by the world. We're not here to scream and yell just for the sake of screaming and yelling. We're here to do good, and if we're here to do good, we need to stop discrimination, whether or not it will eventually affect us personally. So what do we do about it? All right, so this presentation is pretty doom and gloomy, right? It's been pretty doom and gloomy. And that's because it's a bad situation. Okay? And we have to own that bad situation. I've been an activist now for 21 years, and I was here through the George W. Bush years, and it was hard back then, and it got easy with Obama. It got easy to be an atheist activist with Obama because we were making such great progress, and it felt so good. And so now we stop. And now we took 2 steps forward, and now we're going to take a step back. The first thing that we need to do is don't panic, don't give up, and don't inspire others to do so. So many times, I mean, just since November, people have said, oh, we're done. We've lost. We're dead in the water. We are done. We're finished. I'm leaving. I'm going to some other movement. And you should too. Folks, we are not dead yet. We are not done yet. We have a constitution. We have some justices on the Supreme Court. And we've got an election in 2018. And we've got another big one in 2020. And I'm hoping that you all will run for public office. We are down, but we are very, very far from out. We have a lot of work to do. And we just got kicked in the stomach hard. The entire country, the entire world just got kicked in the stomach hard. Guess what? It's up to us to kick back. It's up to us to fight back. It's up to us to take a stand, to dig in, and to gear ourselves up for the long haul fight. That's what I'm talking about here, the long-term effort. This is not something that we're going to see go, and I don't even know how many days it's been that Trump's been in president. Maybe 125 days, maybe 130 days. We got a lot of days left. Okay? We have a lot of days left, and if Trump gets impeached, we're going to have Pence. And that's not going to be much better. Okay? And it's going to be a long, hard fight. And George W. Bush was a long, hard fight too. And George H.W. Bush was a long fight. And this is going to be a hard fight, and there's going to be a lot of bigotry, there's going to be a lot of discrimination, there's going to be a lot of people shouting at you, waving their fists, spitting at you, all that wonderful stuff that they do in the name of Jesus' beautiful love. And we are here, and I'm here to tell you that I am here for the long term. I am here for the fight. American Atheist was formed, thank you. Kelly mentioned Madeleine Murray O'Hair earlier, and she fought. This American Atheist was forged in battle. We are the organization that started the fight. We are the organization that was forged to fight. And now, as much as I hate to say this, I'm kind of looking forward to this. I'm kind of looking forward to kicking some ass. And this guy, he's really motivating me to start kicking some ass. So I'm hoping that you guys will all come with me and stay with me and not run away. Donate to American Atheists, and there's a donor match in effect. By the way, there's a donor match. And yes, I'm asking for money. I'm asking for money because we need your membership. We need your support. There's a donor match going on at American Atheists right now. If you sign up for a monthly donation program, your donations are doubled for the first year. If you sign up for $20 a month, we get $40 a month. If you sign up for $100 a month, we get $200 a month. I would love to get some life members out of this crowd. $100 a month for 1 year gets you a life membership in American Atheists, and yes, it's completely tax deductible. And yes, we will show you our audited financials that we have every year that we post on the web to show you exactly how we are spending the money that you are donating. And of course, the Tri-City Freethinkers, the Tri-State Freethinkers, which should call themselves what, Kelly? The Tri-State Atheists. Because you're all atheists and nobody knows what a freethinker is. But don't get me started on that. We need your money. We need your membership. I remember, again, 21 years ago when I first started, we were just so happy to get butts in seats. And we would have meetings at our local groups. And we were so happy that we had butts in seats that nobody would dare ask for money, because if you asked for money, people would just not come. Those days are over. We need butts in seats. We also need membership. We need dollars, because this is an expensive, long-term, hard fight. And Jim and Jen and I are here to make this fight and to run this war, which we are now fighting against almost all religion in the country and the federal government. I still think we're going to win. I still think we're going to win because the numbers are on our side. Because atheism is rising everywhere. Because atheism is the fastest growing religious demographic in all 50 states. In Fighting God, which was published at the end of 2015, I said there were 27% atheists in this country. Pew finally agrees with me. 26%, they said. 26% atheist in this country. 26% and growing, mostly from the younger generation. The numbers are in our favor. The trends are in our favor. All we need to do is keep on keeping on. Keep fighting. Prepare to protest loudly and lobby efficiently with the organizations. We had a great protest today. Thank you, Jim and Kelly and Jen for making that happen, and everyone else who joined us and made that protest happen. That was the first of many. Protest loudly, protest efficiently, lobby efficiently. The Secular Coalition for America is having a lobby day in June. I hope you can make it there if you can. Science and other marches as atheists, ladies and gentlemen. The Science March, the Women's March, as atheists. This is the important thing. We must wear our atheism on our sleeve. We must be known not only as atheists, but as loud and proud. Because nobody knows what a freethinker is. Let's do this right. There. As we do this, as we move forward, we need to increase our visibility. Kelly was right. Calling yourself an atheist is activism in and of itself. Calling yourself an atheist de-demonizes the word and makes it more socially acceptable. That's why everybody should call themselves an atheist, and that's why everybody should call themselves an atheist while we're participating in other events, while we're participating in the Science March, while we're participating, that's right, that's right, while we're participating in the in the women's marches. We need to make sure that everybody knows that we're atheists, that we're participating as atheists, and yes, intersectionality is good. Intersectionality, when you want to work with the Planned Parenthood, when you want to work with any of the other, with Death with Dignity, with any of the other like-minded folks, it's all good, it's all important, and it's all got to be done with the A word. And I'm just going to say one more thing because I'm just going to bang this drum once, okay? 87% of Americans know what the word atheist means. 10% of Americans know what the word freethinker means. I'll say that again. 87% know what an atheist is. 10% know what a freethinker is. If you want to change minds, communicate clearly. If you go up to somebody who doesn't know what a freethinker is, and you call yourself a freethinker, they're going to think you're religious because they don't know. They think freely too. If you call yourself an agnostic, you've got a 50-50 chance of talking to somebody who doesn't know what it means. If you call yourself secular, you've got a 70% chance of talking to somebody who doesn't know what it means. And humanist is just as bad as freethinker, 11% recognition. 87% know what an atheist is. Why is atheist such a bad term? Why does it have negative connotations? Because people know what it means. And people who use these other words, I've got a real problem with it, because you're hiding behind euphemisms and you're pretending to communicate when you're not communicating. So when you go out and you do this stuff, do it as atheists, loud and proud atheists, not as freethinkers, not as humanists, not as agnostics, not as secularists, because people don't even know what those words mean. They know what an atheist is. Use that word, bang that drum, and stay in this fight, because guess what? We can and will still win. Now, so politicians, get them on speed dial. What can you do? Get your politicians on speed dial and call them. And I'm not exaggerating and I'm not being hyperbolic. Get those politicians on speed dial and call them. And when you call them, I would suggest that you call yourself an independent and not a Democrat or Republican, because that represents you as somebody who might be swayed. It makes you more valuable. Aim outside the movement. Aim outside the movement. I can't stress this enough, folks. So many people inside this movement are shooting other people inside this movement. Oh, you're not liberal enough. Oh, you're too liberal. Last night I was talking to somebody who was talking about people not liking libertarians versus Democrats. That is all shit. That is all shit. And sorry, Kelly. She's 12 years old. I'm sure she's never heard the word before. All that stuff, it's got to go away. We have to have movement unity. We have to shoot our guns outside the movement, not inside the movement. Give people breaks. Find and return lost activists. They've left. There are people who are not in this room right now who got discouraged when Trump won and left. Go get them. Bring them back. Bring them back, sit their butts in this room, and let them get re-motivated to fight this fight. We need their fight. Avoid doomspeak. It'll never work. But it can. It can and it will, ladies and gentlemen, because the numbers are on our side. Prepare to pace yourselves. This will be a long, good, hard battle. But you know what the best part about long battles are? You know what the best part about long battles are, Ruth Ann? When you win, it's really sweet. When you win, it's really good. And I'm looking forward to the future when I can sit in my rocking chair and go back and forth and remember all the time that I sweat, all the time that I cried, all the time that I screamed and got hoarse in my voice, because I fought the good fight and won. And we are fighting the good fight. And ladies and gentlemen, we will win this fight. It's going to be long, it's going to be dirty, it's going to be nasty, but we are going to be winners because the numbers are all on our side. Thank you very much for your time. Yeah.
Yes, I understand that my whole life is just a blink of an eye. The history of the earth is with each moment that goes by. But this moment that I'm with you, it feels like time has stood still. It feels somehow like it matters, and that it always will. Thank you so much.